Numbers. I'm gonna get stricter. 1 second, if you're not.
जय जय राधा जय श्री यारो राधा हरि बोल प्यार राधा श्री जय जय श्री
Hare Krishna, Vinda Devi Mataji. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you. I will announce in 2 minutes, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hello. जय जय राधा जय श्री
Not to turn pages. You can just keep scrolling. It's easy.
यारो राधा हरि प्यार राधा
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today reciters are Vrinda Devi Mataji will be reciting in Sanskrit and Grish Prabhuji will be reciting in English from Canto 3, Chapter 30, verses 18 to 34. And at 8:40, Jayapur Bhasha and Pranshu will be singing the bhajan Kadachit Kalindi Tata Vipina Jagannath Ashtkam. So, Vrinda Devi Mataji, whenever you're ready, can you please start with invocation 3 times? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharine Nivishesha Shanivadi Paschati Deshtarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 30, Text 18. Evam kutumba bharane vyaprithatma jitendriyaha mriyate rudatam svanam uru vedanasya.
Thus, the man who engaged with uncontrolled senses in maintaining a family dies in great grief. Seeing his relatives crying, he dies most pathetically in great pain and without consciousness.
Text 19. Yamaduto tada prapto bhimo sarabhasekshano sadrishtva trasta hridaya shakrin mutram vimunchati.
At death, he sees the messenger of the Lord of Death come before him, their eyes full of wrath, and in great fear he passes stool and urine.
Text 20. Yatana deha avritya pashair badhva gale balat nayato dirgham advanam dandyam raja bhatayatha.
As a criminal is arrested for punishment by the constable of the state, a person engaged in criminal sense gratification is similarly arrested by the Yamdutas, who bind him by the neck with strong rope and cover his subtle body so that he may undergo severe punishment.
Text 21. Tayor nirbhinna hridayas tarjane jatave pathu shvabhir bhakshyamana artokham swam anusmaran.
While carried by the constable of Yamraj, he is overwhelmed and trembles in their hand. While passing on the road, he is bitten by dogs and he can remember the sinful activities of his life. He is thus terribly distressed.
Text 22. Kshutrit paritor gadavanalai santapyamana pathitaptavaluke krichrena prishthe kashayachataditash jalatyashaktopi nirashramodake.
Under the scorching sun, the criminal has to pass through roads of hot sand with forest fire on both sides. He is whipped on the back by the constables because of his inability to walk, and he is afflicted by hunger and thirst. But unfortunately, there is no drinking water, no shelter, and no place for rest on the road.
Text 23. Tatra tatra patan shanto murchita punarutthitaha patha papiyasa nitas tarasayamasadanam.
While passing on the road to the abode of Yamraj, he falls down in fatigue and sometimes he becomes unconscious. But he is forced to rise again. In this way, he is very quickly brought to the presence of Yamraj.
Text 24. Yojananam sahasrani navatim navachadvanaha tribhir muhurtai dvabhyam va nitah prapnoti yatanaha.
Thus, he has to pass 99,000 yojans within 2 or 3 movements, and then he has once engaged in the torturous punishment which he is destined to suffer.
Text 25. Adipanam swagatranam vishtayit volmukadibhi atmamam sadhanam kwapi swakritam parato piva.
He is placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood, and his limbs are set on fire. In some cases, he is made to eat his own flesh or have it eaten by others.
Text 26. Jivataschantrabhyudharaha shvagridrayamasadane sarpavishchikadamshyair dashadbhischatmavaishanam.
His entrails are pulled out by the hounds and vultures of hell, even though he is still alive to see it, and is subjected to torment by serpents, scorpions, gnats, and other creatures that bite him.
Text 27. Krintanam chavanyavasho gajadibhyo bhidapanam patanam girishringebhyo rodhanam chambugatayoho.
Next, his limbs are lopped off and torn asunder by elephants. He is hurled down from hilltops, and he is also held captive either in water or in the cave.
Text 28. Yastamishra Rauravadhyascha yatanaha Bhukte naro va nari va mitha sangena nirmita.
Men and women whose lives were built upon indulgence in illicit sex life are put into many kind of miserable conditions in the hell, known as Tamsira, Andha Tamsira and Rorav.
Text 29. Atraiva naraka swarga iti mata prachakshate yayatana vai narakyas hapi upalakshitaha.
Lord Kapila continued, My dear mother, it is sometimes said that we experience hell or heaven on this planet, for hellish punishments are sometimes visible on this planet too also.
Text 30. Evam kutumbham biprana udaram bhara eva va Vishrecheho bhayam pretya bhukte tat phalamidrisham.
After leaving this body, the man who maintains himself and his family members by sinful activities suffer a hellish life, and then thus and his relatives suffers also.
Text 31. Ekaha prapadyate dhvantam hidvedam swakalevaram kushaletara patheyo bhuta drohena yadbhritam.
He goes alone to the darkest region of hell after quitting the present body, and the money he acquired by envying other living entities is the passage money with which he leaves this world.
Text 32. Daivena saditam tasya shamalam niraye puman bhukte kutumba poshasya hritavitta ivaturaha.
Thus, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer of kingsmen is put into a hellish condition to suffer for his sinful activities, like a man who has lost his wealth.
Text 33. Kevalena hyadharmena kutumba bharanotsuka yati jivondha tamisram charamam tamasa padam.
Therefore, a person who is very eager to maintain his family and kinsmen simply by black methods certainly goes to the darkest region of hell, which is known as Andha Tamsira.
Text 34. Adhastanaralokasya yavati yatanadayah kramashah samanukramya punar atravrajit shuchihi.
Having gone through all the miserable hellish conditions and having passed in a regular order through the lowest forms of animal life prior to human birth, and having thus been purged of his sins, one is reborn again as a human being on this earth. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrinda Devi Mataji and Girish Prabhuji, for the very nice recitation. Thank you. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you.
Okay. Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh,
Hare
thank you very
Krishna.
much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please say some humble obeisances. So glory to Sri Prabhupada, glory to Guru Maharaj. How is everyone today?
Oh, good, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much to Govinda Devi for the Sanskrit recitation, and I believe it was Kirish Prabhu for the English translation. So lovely recited. Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Krishna Govinda Das. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. I'll get myself organized. Okay, today is the 5th of July, 2026. We're going to be reading from Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 30, Description of Lord Kapila of Adverse Fruitive Activities. And the verses that we're going to read today is 28, 29, and 30. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskapcha Naram Chaiva Narotanam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraya Nashtaishu Bhadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Matam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtike. So just want to check you can see the screen, okay? Can you see the verse? Yes?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yashtamisranda Tamisra Rora Vadyashchayatanaha Bhakte Narava Nariva Mitaha Samyana Nirmitaha. Translation: Men and women whose lives were built upon indulgence in illicit sex life are put into many kinds of miserable conditions in the hells known as Tamisra, Under Tamisra, and Rodava. Purport by His Divine Grace, Mr. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Materialistic life is based on sex life. The existence of all materialistic people who are undergoing severe tribulation and the struggle for existence is based on sex. Therefore, in the Vedic civilization, sex life is allowed only in a restricted way. It is for a married couple and only for begetting children. But when sex life is indulged, emphasizes gratification illegally and illicitly, both the man and the woman await severe punishment in this world or after death. In this world, also they are punished by virulent diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, gonorrhea. And in the next life, as we see in the passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are put into different kinds of hellish conditions to suffer. Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex life is also very much condemned, and it is said that one who produces children by illicit sex life is sent to hell. It's confirmed here in the Bhagavatam such offenders are put into hellish conditions of life in Tamisra, under Tamisra, and Rodava. Okay, just going to say the Mangalasharam prayers. Please join if you can. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrapakada Mayam Tadati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatamitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shikamitam Shah He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangye Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'd also like to offer my respectful obeisances and blessings of my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Swami. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Tinamane, and to ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachayane Nirvisheshatsanyavadi Pashacha Desatarna. Kindly seeking the blessings and also the blessings of all the listeners, so that I may be able to say something on the wonderful topics and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Srimad Bhagavatam. May whatever I say be pleasing, truthful, beneficial not only to myself, but to all the listeners as well. So once again, I've been given a particular verse that is very difficult to sort of comprehend. Last week we were talking about the relationship between a woman and a man, and having certain feelings for a woman who is not considered to be your wife. Once again, this is a very delicate topic, but it's also nonetheless very important because throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, it mentions about the influence or the consequences of a certain relationship when a woman has with a man or a man has with a woman that is not specifically his wife or husband. So in this case here, it mentions about illicit sex life, so we can understand that anything which is not in accordance with Vedic civilization is considered to be sinful reaction. And we wonder why is there so much emphasis on sex life in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the purpose that Srila Prabhupada mentions. Of course, in a particular way, we have to understand if we want to actually become more Krishna conscious in our spiritual journey, in our path to spiritual bhakti, then we have to refrain from certain activities in our life. And the only way to refrain ourselves is by controlling our mind and our senses and our intelligence. So from the verse, or rather here it mentions about the first chapter about illicit sex is also very much condemned. And this is when Arjuna is actually speaking to Lord Krishna. From chapter 1, verse number 40, Adama Bhibhavat Krishna Paduyasyanti Kulasriyaha Shritsutasu Vasteya Jayate Varna Sankaraha. Translation: when a religion is prominent in the family, Krishna, the women of the family, become polluted. From the degradation of womanhood, descendant of Vrishni comes unwanted progeny. So the whole reason of illicit sex is cause of unwanted progeny. If a woman is not protected by the father, if she's not protected by the husband, if she's not protected by the brother, if she's not protected by the son, then there's unwanted degradation of the woman. So therefore Arjuna is explaining to Krishna, is trying to instruct Krishna, if we don't protect a religion in a prominent way in our family, then the woman self becomes polluted. This is because Arjuna is having his own sort of philosophy about why he should not carry out this battlefield, or rather this battle on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, having to fight the Kauravas. He says that there will be unwanted progeny if there's nobody to protect women. Of course, Krishna is actually on the opposite hand. He's saying, no, you have to protect Dharma, you have to protect religion. You have to protect society. You have to protect the women, the children, the elderly. And the only way to do it is not just necessarily by fighting, but also upholding Dharma. So here Krishna is also explaining in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or at least Kapila Dev is explaining about the protection of the women. If we don't protect women in such a way, and we commit civil activities and illicit sex life, that we're put into so many kinds of miserable conditions in hell. So once again, it mentions here in this particular purport certain diseases like syphilis, gonorrhea, diseases that actually become from the reactions of sex life itself. Not only that, as we understand over the last 40 years, we've had also other viruses that's come about by illicit sexual interactions, not only women with women, men with men, in the form of AIDS, in the form of HIVs. And it's important that we actually understand the certain activities that we do, which are not favorable in terms of like Mother Nature, in terms of like, according to the scriptures, then certainly certain effects will happen in our life. So it's very important that we actually curtail this feeling. And how do we curtail this feeling? That feeling comes from the mind. That lusty feeling is a sitting place in the mind, the senses, and intelligence. First of all, the senses are aroused, touch, taste, smell, sight, hear. When we have that attraction for the opposite sex, may it be a man or a woman, the senses get aroused. From the arousing of the senses, then the mind gets polluted. When the mind gets polluted by seeing something very beautiful, something very charming, something very pleasing, something very sweet, then our mind automatically gets disturbed. And that's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that we have to learn to control the mind. For the mind, if you can control the mind is the best of friends. But if one who cannot control the mind is his greatest enemy. And of course, the mind is very difficult to control, as Krishna tells Arjuna tells Krishna. It is far easier to control the wind than it is to control the mind. And of course, Krishna is telling him, yes, wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly bring it back under the control of the self. And how do we do that? Because as soon as the mind is aroused by the changes for the senses, then the mind, which is actually also controlling in one way the intelligence is very close to the heart, very close to the soul. The soul itself is pure by nature. Once we lose that intelligence, then once again we sort of get affected by false ego. We start accumulating certain desires in our mind, in our senses. Our intelligence does not actually freely understand what will be the consequences. But if you actually free yourself from this false ego, from the state of feeling certain rises of senses by the opposite sort of sex itself, then we can certainly learn how to control ourselves and protect ourselves. And last week mentioned about how we can control our mind and senses by focusing on something which is superior, something which is transcendental, something which is actually has a higher taste. And in this case, if we see something like a beautiful form, the deities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Saint Krishna, Saint Radharani, Saint Srimati Sitarani, then certainly we can divert our senses from something which is material to something which is spiritual, using our senses to utilize it in different forms of devotional service. Just like the way we explained last week, Ambarish Maharaj uses all his senses to arise for transcendental higher taste. He uses his nose for smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. He uses his tongue to taste the food offered to Krishna. He uses his eyes to see the beautiful form of the Lord. And when you see the beautiful form of the Lord, when you see the lotus smile of the Supreme Lord, which actually vanquishes all suffering in our material life, birth after birth after birth, life after life after life, then we actually come to a higher taste. So once we actually control our mind, control our senses, control our intelligence to a higher taste, then we can certainly free ourselves from certain activities which will only cause more suffering, causing more harm, more sort of consequences. And what will happen? The Srimad Bhagavatam explains that by performing such hellish activities like indulging in the illicit sex life, then yes, you would be put into hellish conditions like in the planets of Timisra, Timisra, and Rohriva. It's not very pleasing at all when you hear this description of what happens to a man or woman when they indulge in illicit sex. So just for your information, for my information as well, from Bhagavatam, chapter 5, the creative impetus, chapter 26, a description of the hellish planets. A lot of devotees, when they read the Canto 5, they get very disturbed by the explanation of the hellish planets. Sometimes we may wonder, why is these explanations so vivid? Why is it explaining so many things in detail? What will happen as a consequence when you steal, when you eat meat, when you kill an animal, when you perform illicit sex? There's certain reactions that will happen to all of us by these negative or negative self reactions that we perform by doing these activities, while not in conjunction with the Srimad Bhagavatam's teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So from this particular verse, the translation reads, a man or woman indulges in sexual intercourse with an unworthy member of the opposite sex is punished after death by assistance of Yamaraj. the hell known as Taptasurmi. There such men and women are beaten with whips. The man is forced to embrace a red-hot iron form of a woman. The woman is forced to embrace a similar form of a man. Such is the punishment of illicit sex. So then you may wonder, why is it that we should be punished for such a thing? After all, we have a free will. We have a desire to do whatever we want in this material world. Why is the consequence of punishment so hellish? Embracing a hot form of a man, embracing a hot form of a woman. Why is it justified? Is there really a hell? Is there such suffering? Should we really be punished? After all, if God loves us so much, why is He causing us to suffer so much in this material world? The problem is, in this material world, we have to learn what is right and what is wrong. Just as a child, he has to understand what is right and what is wrong. If he doesn't understand what is right and wrong, he's reprimanded by his teacher, he's reprimanded by his parents, he's reprimanded by his peers, his elders. Because otherwise, what will happen? He will end up in a life of crime. If he doesn't understand by stealing is bad for him, then he will continue to become a criminal. If he does not understand causing harm and causing suffering to other human beings, then as a consequence, he will suffer himself. If he doesn't understand by committing a crime, by stealing, by cheating other people, by sort of causing some sort of criminal activity, if he understands that if he's carrying on with these certain activities, then he will be punished. That's why in this material world we have this prison. Why? Because when we commit a sinful activity, if we do something which is against the laws of government, then certainly we get the consequences of being in prison. So similarly, there's the laws of nature. We do not follow the scriptures as ascertained by the Srimad Bhagavatam, by the Vedas, by the Bhagavad Gita. Then here there's explanations what will happen to a certain person when they perform certain activities, civil activities, they get sinful reactions. So it's very important that, of course, because of this particular topic, particular nature, I have to sort of elaborate also not for yourself, for my own understanding as well. It mentions here that generally man should not have sexual relationship with any woman other than his wife. According to Vedic principles, the wife of another man is considered one's mother. Sexual relations are strictly forbidden within one's mother, sister, and daughter. So the duty of a man to a woman, if he's not his wife, he should treat the woman as a mother. He should treat the woman as a sister, as his daughter. In so many ways that the man must understand from the Vedic scriptures that what it is another woman is to him. So it's important that similarly a woman should also see another man either as a father, as a brother, as an uncle, as a son, in such a way that she does not have attraction for that particular person as well. It also mentions about what is the consequences if, as I explained down here, what would happen. There'd be unwanted progeny as well, which is of course the case. Can't seem to find the particular page which I was referring to it. But anyway, let me see if I've got it in my notes. Yes, there are triggers which cover the intelligence as well. Certainly within the heart we have feelings. We have feelings of expressions, sadness, attachment, possessiveness, control. We have these desires which are natural when we see somebody of the opposite sex. But when we control our mind, our senses to our higher taste, understanding that Krishna is the supreme goal, the consequences of surrendering unto Krishna will be rewarded in a feeling of happiness, feeling of prosperity, feeling of peace, feeling of transcendental love, bliss, then surely we would rather feel love and affection for Krishna rather than having lusty feelings for the opposite sex. And in the Bhagavad Gita, once again, it mentions about that while contemplating on the objects of the senses, what happens? One develops attachment from them. From what such attachment, what happens? Lust develops. From lust, there is anger. When you don't have what you want from a woman, when you can't get what you want, then that anger arises. When you cannot fulfill your lusty desires, when you cannot transform your lust to love, then certainly there is that consequences of feeling rejected, feeling of hatred, feeling of not wanting to be recognized by something that you want to obtain by your lusty desires. From that lusty desires, anger arises. From anger, there is delusion of the memory. When memory is deluded, intelligence is lost. Once intelligence is lost, one again falls down into this material pool. So you can see it's a consequence of reactions. First of all, you get attached to something which is in your mind, in your senses, something which you want to enjoy your senses with. You want to exploit that particular feeling to have that feeling of happiness within yourself. From that feeling of attachment, lust develops. From lust, there is anger when you get rejected. From anger, there's complete delusion. When memory is deluded, intelligence is lost. Once intelligence is lost, one again falls down into this material pool. So it is important that while we got this opportunity, we don't want to go into the cycle of birth and death. Everybody has this feeling of desires for the opposite sex, whether it's animal life, bird life, human life. That is the whole purpose of life itself. This whole material world is based on the feelings of sex life. If there was no attraction for sex life, then life as we see it will not go on. We would actually just come to extinction itself. But Krishna is made in such a way that attraction is there for the opposite sex. Without the feeling of sex life, then there will be no progeny. But if we learn how to have that progeny in a way which is actually explained by the Vedas for raising Krishna conscious children and nothing else, then surely your life will be more successful. But if you do it according or against the principles of religion, then there will only be mistakes. Okay, now I'll go to the next verse. So one of the important things is about where Srila Prabhupada has actually established within ISKCON itself. It's established the four regulator principles. Does anybody know what the four regulator principles are? And what pillars of religion they all relate to?
Cleanliness is the illicit sex.
Yes, thanks, Jay. Anything else?
It is answer.
Okay, first of all, he explains that when you actually want to take up Krishna consciousness, importantly, you chant the holy name of the Lord. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, you purify your heart, you purify your mind, you purify your intelligence, and it removes the unwanted desires in the heart, anger, lust, and greed, which is the most prominent. By following the four regulated principles that Srila Prabhupada established, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. And within the four pillars that actually are the foundation of religion, which is mercy, truthfulness, austerity, cleanliness. From, as Jay Mataji mentioned, that from refraining from illicit sex, we develop the religion, the foundation of cleanliness. We want to be clean, not only internally, but externally. It's important that we actually understand by refraining even from the thoughts of a woman, even refraining from seeing a woman for personal desires, personal reactions will always be there otherwise. But to do that is not easy, but once again, as Krishna mentions to Arjuna, wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and steady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So if you see something very beautiful, you say, wow, Krishna, you've created something very beautiful, very amazing. How is it that you are so all attractive? May my desires, may my thoughts be seen in something which is always attracted by your qualifications, by your sort of supreme ability. You've created this beautiful world, this beautiful creations of different human beings, this beautiful planet with all its belongings. Please allow me to see every object that is very beautiful. Let me free myself from lust desires and transform it into a form of love. Then once again, meditating, Prabhupada explains that by not refraining from eating meat, we develop the mood of mercy, we develop the mood of compassion, we develop the mood of wanting to love one another, care for one another, not harm or hurt any living entities, be it a little tiny insect or even another human being. It mentions in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the greatest sinful reactions that one could perform is causing distress to another human being. So by refraining from eating meat, refraining from causing harm to another person, refraining harm to another living entity, we develop mercy, we develop compassion, we develop humility. And that is the chain shloka that we hold around our neck from the Shikshastakam. Third verse, Trinadapi Sanechena, Taropi Savistuna, Manana Manadena, Ketanya Sadari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than tree and devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. Such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord. So that all those qualities, being tolerant like a tree, being humble like a blade of grass, not expecting any prestige, ready to offer all respects, that all comes under mercy. When we become merciful to others, when we become compassionate to others, when we pray for others, when we see the good in others rather than the bad in other people, then we free our mind from envy, we free our mind from hatred, we free our mind from jealousy, we free our mind from all sorts of unwanted thoughts to another person, even though he may be an enemy. It is in our own interest to see the best in everyone. It's not easy whatsoever, because one day you could be good friends with a friend of yours, the next day you could have an argument. Same with a husband and a partner, same with the children, family life. I've known people who are in Krishna consciousness, they don't even speak to their mothers, they don't even speak to their brothers, sisters, family. And you think, well, if you want to become Krishna consciousness, you want to learn how to learn learn to love one another. And it's not easy. Maybe they may have some personal reasons behind it as well. The other one is truthfulness. It's we refrain ourselves from no gambling. By gambling means not only from stocks and shares, but gambling in the acts of trying to gain some money illicitly or some sort of way which isn't actually or prohibited in Krishna conscious way, or also avoid gambling our life away, not using our life in a way that would actually cause suffering to ourselves or cause suffering to other people. We don't gamble our life unnecessarily to cause harm to anybody at all. We use it only to serve Krishna, nothing else. And intoxication, of course, one of the fourth pillar is to avoid ourselves from intoxication, alcohol, drugs, smoking, all those kind of things that causes our mind, our intelligence, our consciousness to become imperfect, to become impurified. By refraining from these certain activities, we purify our consciousness, we free ourselves, free our soul from the anarthas that's covering the goodness, passion, and ignorance. By refraining from all these activities, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex and intoxication, then we free ourselves from certain unwanted qualities, so we become more spiritually connected to Krishna and his devotees. So you can see the consequences. You hear the stories all the time. When you have that lusty desires for the opposite sex, if you are not able to fulfill your desires, you end up committing crime, and you see so many crime documents. It's all based on sexual desires, lust. So you hear this recent story of some woman and a lover threw her own fiance off a cliff or some sort of ridge in India and caused that fiance to, to die, unfortunately. And now first of all, they said it was like an accident, but the more the police investigated in this particular case, they found out there was a conspiracy going on between the woman that man was supposed to marry. She had a lover, and the lover did not want her to get married to this particular man, and they plotted this crime, they plotted this murder, where they would throw him over this cliff in some fort in India. and now they've been locked away. The father of the man who got murdered is saying that the woman and the man who are responsible for the death of their own son should have the death penalty themselves. This is the feeling of when you want a certain desire for the opposite sex and you cannot fulfill that desires, or contemplating on the objects of the attachment, one develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust develops, anger arises, mind gets diluted. When mind is diluted, intelligence is lost. Then what happens? You do the most irrational thing. So that's why it's better to curb the mind and free ourselves from that feeling of sexual indulgence and use those senses, those indulgence, into a higher form of life. It is a very, very difficult subject for me to talk about because it's not an easy subject to talk about. But I'm just explaining exactly what it is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if anybody has any comments or improvisation, I certainly welcome them. So text 29. Aitara naraka svarga iti mata prachakshate yayatana ved narakayas it ta yapi palakshita. So just take some water. Lord Kapila continued, My dear mother, it is sometimes said that we experience hell or heaven on this planet, but hellish punishments are sometimes visible on this planet also. Purport. Sometimes unbelievers do not accept these statements of scripture regarding hell. They disregard such authorized description. Lord Kapila therefore confirms them by saying that these hellish conditions are also visible on this planet, and it is not that they are only on the planet where Yamaraj lives. The planet of Yamaraj, the sinful man, is given a chance to practice living in the hellish conditions, which he will have to endure in the next life. And then he is given a chance to take birth on another planet to continue his hellish life. For example, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all he practices such habits on the planets of Yamaraj. Then he is given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy, otherwise it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. So more or less I've covered this particular explanation from this particular verse in purport, but further on it mentions about if you want to remain in hell and you want to eat stool and urine, then you get the body of a hog. So you can actually customize yourself to that particular body. So in your next life, you have that particular body, so you can carry on eating stool and urine from the hellish condition. Now, I always wonder, we sometimes remember our past lives, sometimes we remember certain activities, or certainly you see the stories of people who remember the past life. You also hear stories how certain people see Yamaraj, they see the Yamadutas, they see the different kind of hellish conditions they're actually following through. So it's not some whimsical stories, some not made up fairy tale about the hellish condition of life, or you all have to go through that consequences itself. For some, it may be better, for some, it could be worse. So, what is it that we can free ourselves? Are we actually seeing the Srimad Bhagavatam? What is it trying to tell us? The hellish conditions of life? Is it trying to frighten us? Is it trying to tell us that there's another life after this life? Is it trying to tell us to refrain yourself from doing certain activities to avoid having these sort of suffering in the hellish worlds? What is it trying to explain? Is this something philosophical? Is it something just like this world is an illusion? It's like a dream, as they say. Is this hellish life also a dream? Do we just go through that phase of suffering for the consequences because we've hurt somebody, because we've eaten meat, because we've had sex life illicitly? What is it that causes us to understand that this hellish life is for real? So the Srimad Bhagavatam explains it very clearly in the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 5, the hellish conditions. It details everything, what happened to a man when he eats meat, when he has illicit sex, what happens to him when he cheats, when he's gambling. it's actually there for a particular reason. It's not just a fable story. It's not just some sort of whimsical pastime. It's certainly there to obviously make us understand from our intellectual point of view, what are the consequences, what will happen. You know for a fact yourself, if you drive on the wrong side of the road, what will you get? You will get a parking ticket, you get a speeding ticket, you'll end up getting a crash, you'll go into prison, you get fined. If you go into a house, if you go into a shop and you steal something and you get caught, you know what the consequences are. If you know you're going to do something wrong and harm somebody, hit somebody, cause somebody grievous bodily harm, what are the consequences? You know for a fact what is going to happen to you. You're going to go to court, you're going to get summoned, you're going to get recognized for the punishment or the crime that you've committed, and you get that punishment accordingly. Unfortunately, in the hellish conditions, we don't take it very seriously because why? We think that this hellish condition is just a matter of fable story. It's just like something that is actually just trying to frighten us off. But unfortunately, it's not. And many, I wouldn't like to say this, but I do know for a fact that when I've seen people who try to be whether they're spiritually minded or not spiritually minded, when they've committed a crime, the consequences is just according to that particular person. Just like as a police officer, if he commits a crime, his punishment is higher. Why? Because he's supposed to refrain the general public from performing these kind of criminal activities. Now, if he's caught committing a crime himself, the punishment would be higher. Similarly, for a member of parliament, and similarly for a politician, they're there to protect us. They're there to actually govern the laws, the society. They're actually performing the criminal activity, then the punishment will be higher. Similarly, I've seen myself when somebody is actually very spiritually minded, they've committed a crime, they've committed offenses to another devotee, unfortunately, the consequences is slightly greater as well. Of course, Krishna is very merciful and he also recognizes the devotee's well-being, he recognizes the devotee's devotional attitude and servitude, and he will also pardon him just as much as he gets punished. So it's important that we actually start refraining from certain criminal activities straight away. And it's not easy because we all want to find a way to see how we can cheat the system, how we can get away with doing certain activities without being caught, certain indulgences that we may have. We may think Krishna is not looking. Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. He knows every living entity is what's happened to them in the past. He knows exactly what's happening to them presently, right now, and even without thinking, he knows exactly what we're going to be doing in the future. So it is important that we actually utilize our mind, our senses, our intelligence in a way that we can actually serve Krishna indefinitely. Okay, number 30. Verse 30. Evam kutumbambi prana udaram bara evava risheya yopayam pritya punkte ta phalam trisham. Translation: after leaving this body, man who maintained himself and his family members by sinful activities suffers a hellish life, and his relatives suffer also. The mistake of modern civilization is that man does not believe in the next life, which we were explaining slightly earlier on, when we were thinking that they perhaps do not believe that there's actually a hellish planet whatsoever. They think it's just a fable story, or some fictitious story, just to make us believe, to feel regret, to feel some sort of fear, to feel some sort of resentment that we should not perform certain activities. Otherwise, we're going to get the consequences of suffering in the hellish planets of life. But it is real. It is genuinely real. Right now, this world could be an illusion, but you pinch yourself, you still feel that suffering straight away. We're still feeling that consequences, whatever happens. Our mind is always distressed. Our mind is always disturbed. Our mind is always in anxiety, thinking of one thing or another thing or another thing, whether it's in our own life, whether it's another person, whether it's something to do with work, something with finance, something to do with health, all sorts of things, all sorts of anxieties always going on in our mind again and again and again. But if we understand those anxieties will always be there, but if we understand how to dovetail our mind, thinking of the sweet, loving form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, that's devotional smile, that devotional service that we actually feel, Krishna, you are ours. Please, please, please. There's nobody else in our heart except for you, and there's nobody in our heart except for us. There's a particular verse, Bhagavad Gita. Okay, it may come to me in a little while, but whether he believes or not that the next life is there, one has to suffer if one does not lead a responsible life. Terms of the injunctions of authoritative scriptures like the Vedas and Puranas, species lower than human beings are not responsible for their actions because they are made to act in a certain way. But in the developed life of human consciousness, one is not responsible for its activities, then is sure to get hellish life as described herein. So because the human life has a higher level of consciousness, we have understanding, we have knowledge, we have teachers who teach us in our life, we have parents who train us up, who raise us up in a form of good society. We have the whole nation understanding exactly what is right and what is wrong. Our teachers, our peers, our colleagues, our neighbors, our friends. And more importantly, from a spiritual perspective, we have the Guru, we have the Sadhu, we have the Shastras, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata. They're all teaching us something very, very important. And we must understand not to take it whimsically, not like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, now I've come to the fag end of my lives. Now I feel remorse. Now I feel pity. Now I feel regret. Now I've committed so many sinful reactions. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is pure by nature, but he's teaching us, don't leave it to the fag end of our life. Don't leave it to the time when it's time to die. Don't leave it when it's time for a point in the life when we've been rejected by everyone, by society, by our wife, by our husband, by all the people who loved us, all the people who raised us up, because we've done some sinful reactions. And it can happen to anybody. You may be living in a life of happiness, prestige house, prestige family, prestige lifestyle, prestige job, and your life could come crumbling down. Why? Because you've committed a sinful reactions. You've indulged in something which against the principles of religion. You've indulged in this particular 3 verses that we're reading in illicit sex. Your life could come crashing down. Divorce, losing your life, losing your house, losing your family, losing your loved ones, your children, your whole life that you build up, all your life, all your wealth. You've got to take it all away, give it away. And famous actor Robin Williams, I remember reading an article about him. He actually went through so many divorces in his life, and he said, if I could have been a single person and I knew I could be happy, I would rather do that than go through all that suffering I went through. Divorce cases, divorce after divorce after divorce. The richest man in the world, Elon Musk, he's went through so many divorces, given away so many of his wealth away. Of course, this is from a material perspective, but from a spiritual perspective, it's like it mentions that we're in a civilization where less intelligence, that we do not believe in the next life. But this next life is very real, because Srila Prabhupada, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna explains, for one who at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. We certainly want to be with the Supreme Lord. There are different kinds of liberation. Be with the Supreme Lord at impersonal level, which we don't want. Be with the Lord so we can become his friend, have the qualities and the nature of the Supreme Lord in his Vishnu Tattva form, or we could become still in awe and reverence to the Supreme Lord in the Vaikuntha planets, or we could become Krishna's best friend. What do we really want to become? Because we have to work through our process of Bhakti Yoga, through adore and admiration of the Supreme Lord, but also we want to become Krishna's best friend. As Gopakumar does, as he goes through all his journey, going from the different planets of higher planets, lower planets to higher planets, to the different Vaikuntha planets, then ultimately becomes the Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna is waiting for us. That's what we want. We want Krishna to wait for us. We want Krishna to be there, ready for us. We want him to embrace us. We want him to say, I've been waiting for you life after life after life. And that can only happen. Why? Because whatever state of being one remembers at the time of his death, that state he will attain without fail. So we don't want to become another human being. We don't want to become an animal. We don't want to become a tree. We don't want to become another woman in our next life, as explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When the personalities were thinking of their loved ones in the next life, they became a woman or a deer, like in the case of King Bharat. We want to become a devotee, life after life. We may not be perfect devotees, but we should try and aim to be a better devotee every day. Just like at work, you have your performance journey, your manager, your director. It gives you certain tasks, it gives you certain objectives. What are you going to achieve, Kosh, Krishna Govinda, Kosh, in my case, in your next 6 months? Are you going to attain these certain qualifications? Are you going to follow these certain mandatory courses? Are you going to improve your qualities? Are you going to train others? Are you going to mentor others? And this is what it is. Don't be stagnant in your spiritual journey. Don't think just follow the 4 regulated principles and chanting 60 rounds. Don't think I'm just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, all the different Upanishads, the Vedas. Don't be just a parrot. Improve yourself every day of your life. Become a better person. See how you can give that knowledge that somebody has given you. Like Srila Prabhupada at the age of 70, he risked his life traveling on a cargo ship for 40 days, had 2 heart attacks, suffered immensely for 1 year. Rogue sort of candidates who wanted to become Krishna consciousness, they were into drugs, they were into hippie life, they were into alcohol, they were into sexual intercourses. Prabhupada still was so submissive for their reactions. He still gave them Krishna consciousness. He still gave them love. He still gave them affection. He still gave them shelter. Even though they were breaking the 4 regulated principles, still Prabhupada took on that responsibility, took on that karmic reactions. So we're not like Srila Prabhupada, of course not, but we can learn from his lessons. We can still learn how to develop, how to become a better devotee, refrain from certain activities which are against the principles of religion. And why should we do that? Because Bahunam Jamanam Ante Jnanava Mam Prapajate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudulabha. Of the many person there's who is actually in knowledge, surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. And who is that person who surrenders unto Krishna? Amongst thousands of men who aim for perfection, and of those who attain perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So we have to live a life of perfection. It may take many births and deaths, but once we are actually in knowledge, we surrender to Him because we know Krishna to be the cause of causes, and all that is a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sorry, I've gone slightly over time. So this rare form of human life, use all your knowledge, serving Krishna in your sleep, in your walk, in your talk, in your eating, in your activities, in every actions that you do, serve Krishna. It's not easy, but with the association of devotees, you can fulfill whatever you want by serving Krishna and the spiritual master and his devotees. Sorry, I've gone slightly over time. I'll pass it on to the respective devotees. We're going to be singing a beautiful song on Lord Jagannath. Thank you, Hare Krishna, everyone. Please forgive me for any mistakes. If there's any comments, please add on the chat show or share with me afterwards. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I hope I wasn't on mute all this time. Shiji Kishori Mataji, are you there?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes, I'm here. I was waiting for Namrata Mataji to announce the singers, but I think she's not there at the moment. So I know that today we have dear Purbasha and dear Pranshu who will be singing a very nice bhajan. Purbasha and Pranshu, are you ready to sing, please?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes, and what's the name of your bhajan? I'll ask Prabhuji to share the lyrics on the screen.
Jagannath Ashtagam.
Okay. Jagannath Ashtakam, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So who is reading the English translation?
Both of us.
Okay, so just a minute. Prabhuji is getting the lyrics up on the screen. Jagannath Ashtakam. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for sharing the lyrics. Okay, when you're ready, please go ahead.
Sometimes in great happiness, Lord Jagannath makes a loud concert with his flute in the groves on the banks of the Yamuna. He is like a bumblebee tasting the beautiful lotus-like faces of the cowherd damsels of Braj, and great personalities such as Lakshmi, Shiv, Brahma, Indra, and Ganesh worship his lotus feet. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision.
In his left hand, the Lord Jagannath holds a flute. On his head, he wears peacock feathers, and on his hips, he wears fine yellow silken cloth. From the corners of his eyes, he bestows sidelong glances upon his loving devotees, and he always reveals himself through his pastimes in his divine abode of Vrindavana. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision.
On the shore of the great ocean, within a large palace atop the brilliant golden Nilachala hill, Lord Jagannath resides with his powerful brother Balabhadra and his sister Shubhadra, who sits between them. May that Jagannath Swami, who bestows the opportunity for devotional service upon all godly souls, be the object of my vision.
Lord Jagannath is an ocean of mercy and as beautiful as a row of blackish rain clouds. He is the storehouse of bliss for Lakshmi and Saraswati, and his face resembles a spotless, full-blown lotus. The best of the demigods and sages worship him, and the Upanishads sing his glory. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision.
When Lord Jagannath moves along the road on his Rath car, at every step large assemblies of Brahmanas loudly chant prayers and sing songs for his pleasure. Hearing their hymns, Lord Jagannath becomes very favorably disposed towards them. He is the ocean of mercy and the true friend of all the worlds. May that Jagannath Swami, along with his consort Lakshmi, who was born from the ocean of nectar, be the object of my vision.
Lord Jagannath, whose eyes resemble full-blown lotus petals, is the ornament on Lord Brahma's head. He resides on the Nilachal hill, with his lotus feet placed on the heads of Anantadeva. Overwhelmed by mellows of love, he joyfully embraces Srimati Radharani's body, which is like a cool pond. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision.
Do you want to say it a bit slowly? Yeah?
Ranshi, can you read that again, please?
Yeah.
Lord Jagannath, whose eyes resemble full-blown lotus petals, is the ornament on Lord Brahma's head.
He resides on Nilachal hill with his lotus feet placed on the heads of Anantadev. Overwhelmed by the mellows of love, he joyfully embraces Srimati Radharani's body, which is like a cool pond. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision. I do not pray for a kingdom, nor do I pray for gold, rubies, or wealth. I do not ask for a beautiful wife as desired by all men. I simply pray that Jagannath Swami, whose glories Lord Shiv always sings, may be the constant object of my vision.
O Lord of the demigods, please quickly remove this useless material existence I am undergoing. O Lord of the Yadus, please destroy this vast, shoreless ocean of sins. Alas, this is certain Lord Jagannath bestows his lotus feet upon those who feel themselves fallen and have no shelter in this world but him. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision.
The self-restrained, virtuous soul who recites these 8 verses glorifying Lord Jagannath becomes cleansed of all sins and duly proceeds to Lord Vishnu's abode. Hare Krishna. कदाचित् कलिन्दितविपिन सङ्गीतकरावो शम्भु ब्रह्मपति गणेशचित्तपदो जगन्नाथ स्वामी भव.
Hare Krishna. I was just wondering, could you speak a bit closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Shall I start again then?
Yeah. Do you have a microphone or is that on a mobile phone?
It's on the laptop.
Okay. Yeah, sure. You don't have headphones, do you?
No.
Okay. Yeah. If you could just
कदाचित् कलिन्दितविपिन सङ्गीतकरावो. Can you hear me?
yeah, much better. Thank you.
मुदाभिरीनारीवदनकमलस्पर्धमधुपा रमशम्भु ब्रह्ममरपति गणेशचित्तपदो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे भुजे सव्यवेणुं शिरसि शिखिपिच्छं कतितटे दुकूलं नेत्रान्ते सहचरकटाक्षं विदधते सदा श्रीमद्वृन्दावनवसतिर्लीला परिचयो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे महापुरुषे कनकरुचिरे शिखरे वसन् प्रसाद सहज बलभद्रेण बलिना सुभद्र मध्यस्थ सकल सुरसेव वसरतो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे कृपा परम्पर सजल कृपा परवार सजल जलदश्रेणी रुचिरो रमावाणि स्फुरदमलपकेरुकमुख सुरेन्द्रैरन श्रुतिगणशिखा गीता चरितो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे रथारूढ गच्छन् पथिमीलितभूदेव पतले स्तुति प्रादुर्भाव प्रतिपदमुपकर्ण्य सदय दया सिन्धुर्बन्धु सकल जगत सिन्धु सुतय Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhava Tume. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhava Tume. Parabrahma Pida Kuvalaya Dalotfula Nayano Nivashi Niladro Nihita Charano Nanta Shirasi Rasanandora Sarasava Pura Gana Shuko Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagame Bhavatu Me Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagame Bhavatu Me Navaya Chiratyam Na Jaganakama Kya Vibhava Nayati Hamra Sakala Janata Bhavatu Sada Kala Kala Pramadapati Nagita Charito Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhavatu Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhavatu Taratvam samsara tataram masaram surapate Taratvam papana vetatim aparamedavapate Ahti vinatami tacha pranishchitamina Jagannatha Swami Pathagami Bhavatu Me Jagannatha Swami Pathagami Bhavatu Me Jagannatha Swami Pathagami Bhavatu Me Jagannatashtakam punyam yapatir pranata suchi sarva papa vishuddhatma Vishnu lokam sagacchati Hare Krishna 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 Hare
Hare Krishna, that's very nicely sung. Purbasha and Pranshu, really nicely sung. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, if you have any comments or realizations to share with Krishna Govinda Prabhuji, please unmute yourself and go ahead. Thank you. Is that okay, Krishna Govinda Prabhuji?
Yeah, just quickly say thank you to Purbasha and Pranshu. Do you want to show your video so we can all say Haribol to you? Joy, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Going to finish the Mahamantra.
Everybody can just give 3 Haribols to Purbasha and Pranshu.
Hari
Krishna.
Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you very much. Very well. Nicely sung as well. So beautiful. So I believe, I think Rath Yatra falls on
16th.
16th of July, yeah, in Jagannath Puri. So anybody going to Jagannath Puri? No? Okay. But it's a beautiful place. If you haven't been there already, it's such a beautiful place, seeing the beautiful form of Lord Jagannath Subhadra Baladev. So, yeah, any comments, any questions anybody want to ask, anything that they want to raise or any corrections?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I would just like to ask a question, please.
Yeah,
The
sure.
sentence where Krishna says, I'm the cause of all causes, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, sure. That's a
Please.
very wonderful question, actually. So sometimes I used to think, is Krishna the cause of all the things that happens wrong in our life as well? Or is it sorry, just put my video on. So as we understand, Krishna is the supreme control of the entire universe. By him, everything emanates. Everything is ordained by his will. Even a blade of grass can only move by his sanctioning. But what we do understand is that when there is a cause, directly he may be the person involved in something which is very positive. When something negative happens, it could also mean that is Krishna the cause of that. But in that case, there is always expansions, it's external energy, it's the mature nature, it's a form of Prakriti as well, in the form of Mother Earth as well. There's 5 particular actions that Bhagavad Gita mentions that were all have certain activities. If I could find that particular verse, see if I do get fit. Maybe this one may not be. Yeah, here it is. Verse 13 and 14. We go to Bhagavad Gita. Sorry. It is this one. Okay, just before I show this particular verse, so Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From him, everything emanates, the whole universe. The whole cause of the whole universe is going like TikTok. The 4 seasons that take place: summer, winter, summer, winter, autumn, spring, and also everything that's ordained around it. But at the same time, there could be the cause of dissolution of the mature nature as well. When the mature comes to the end, at the end of Lord Brahma's day, and then ultimately at the end of Lord Brahma's lifetime as well, this complete devastation of the whole universe itself. But also at the same time, we got to understand that those causes that happens to each individuality is also affected by this particular verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 14. So the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, ultimately the super soul, these are the 5 factors of action. So although the Supreme Lord is independent of us, and we also have that independence as well, but we also have that ability by acting in a certain way by the body, by the performer, the various senses. We mentioned about the senses, the mind and the intelligence, and the various kinds of endeavor. So every endeavor, there is a result, whether it's a good endeavor or poor endeavor. Ultimately, the super soul. So if you have a certain desire, if you want to be the number 1 criminal in the world, then if you have that desire, the Supreme Lord will give you that, fulfill that desire. But you've got to have all the endeavors and actions to perform behind it. So he could be the cause of you having that facility. But for us, we want to actually ultimately become a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and using all the different kind of the places of the action, the body, the performer, which is the individual soul, the various senses, and the many different kinds of endeavors, we ultimately come to the effect that Krishna, you are the cause of all that's happened to us in our life. Just like if you cut ourselves, you may think, well, why did this happen to me? What karmic reactions have I done to deserve this? When something happens to you, but who knows? Krishna is so merciful that in your previous life, Prabhupada explains that you may have committed a greater sin, but as a kind gesture, Krishna has given you a very minimal sort of reactions just by cutting a finger. But because you become a devotee of the Lord, Krishna has given you that good cause itself to become a overcome certain activities in your life to understand that everything that we do is actually under the instructions or by the cause of the Supreme Lord. Now, although that may not explain it 100%, but when I do understand the cause of all causes, everything that happens, whether it's good or bad, certainly from an external point of view, from the spiritual point of view, the Supreme Lord has a part of it. And from a certain point of view, like the causes of the material destructions, the material nature, that is our own endeavor, our own sort of conditioning that we've put in this material nature, the suffering that we've caused to others. We have that suffering that comes back to us in the form of Ajatapika, Adibodhika, and Adidevika, suffering of the mind, suffering of our past karma, suffering because of the actions of the great demigods in the form of hurricanes, tornadoes, and so forth. But they're all caused by the effect of the material nature. I hope that sort of partly answers your question, Sri Kishori. It may not be fully what you wanted, but that's my sort of understanding, unless somebody else could support me and answer that question.
That's quite a nice explanation, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. I was just wondering what sort of causes is Krishna the cause of, what type of causes? But you've answered my question. Thank you so much, Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
I'm sure there's more deeper answer, more philosophical answer, but due to my limited intelligence, whenever I hear that phrase, cause of all causes, Krishna is the supreme, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha, Nadi Adi Govinda, Sarvakarana Karanama. Krishna is the primal cause of all causes. Everything happens through his ultimate sanctioning. So we just assume that the soul is actually has a certain reactions, but developing a sort of attachment to Krishna, then positive things happen. But if we reject Krishna, then unfortunately we fall into the pit of the material world. Thank you. It's a lovely question. So what I'll do, I'll try and find a bit more detail on that, Sri Kishori, and give you a better explanation next
Okay.
time.
That would be nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hitesh Bhai.
I was just extending on the cause of all causes. I think chapter 10 Gita, Bhagavad Gita, text 2, the purport there kind of elaborates on the cause of all causes. If you want to have a quick read of that or look at that.
Can do. Yeah, let me
Hare
just
Krishna.
share it quickly anyway. If we've got a little time. Chapter 10 to neither the host or the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or appearances, for in every respect the source of the demigods and sages. Okay. Yeah.
So they're
explains
just
a bit
at the
more.
beginning of the purport, as stated in the Brahma Samhita. I think it says something to that effect.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, yeah. There's no one greater than him. He is the cause of all causes. Here it is so stated that the Lord personally is the cause of all the demigods and sages. Yes, that's right. Even the demigods, we just cannot understand Krishna and understand. Yes, it's almost like similar to what I was saying. Basically, Krishna creates his whole universe, although he's part of it, is also not part of it at the same time. And it's just like he's created all this different facilities in this material world. Although he's given that provisions for us, but at the same time, he's not actually part of it. So although cause of all causes, from a spiritual perspective and from a material perspective. Thank you, Hitesh Prabhu, for that, sharing that. Thank you. I'll call it, yeah, sure.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry. Thank you for a beautiful class. I just wanted to ask, you said about illicit sex, people going to the hellish planets. So if
Yeah.
you're a devotee and you're supposed to have just sex for progeny, what if you continue to have it?
Yeah, that's fine. Actually, if you actually raising children in Krishna conscious way, then that's actually a very good thing. That's exactly what Krishna wants. But just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that if I knew I could raise Krishna conscious kids, then I would have sex 100 times. But because most of our reasoning for having sex is more from a bodily pleasure point of view, when you see a beautiful man, when you see a beautiful woman, it's mainly arouses our senses, which causes disturbance to the mind, which affects our intelligence. And then that intelligence becomes tainted by illusion, by darkness, by ignorance, by anger, frustration. Normally, as you know, when you're raising a child, it's not an easy thing at all. It may be very beautiful at the beginning, cute, cuddly, happy, nice, but you know for a fact, raising a Krishna conscious kid or any kid takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of moral support, principles of sort of in a financial reason as well, a lot of time and energy as well. I know I've got 2 kids myself, one's 28 and one's 23. Although it was a pleasure raising them, I can understand also there's a lot of anxiety as well. Will they become devotees? Will they not become devotees? Just like sometimes when we have Krishna conscious kids, the idea is that you're supposed to read and chant at least minimum 50 rounds. The idea of that is to actually have your mind completely focused, so especially attached to Krishna by chanting his holy name. And when you have that intercourse, then you're not so much having that pleasure of sexual desire, but actually thinking of Krishna. Now, many people say, well, I did chant 50 rounds. I did it in an auspicious time. We did all this samskaras, we did all this sort of Gaba prayers and all those. But yet my child is not become a devotee at all. Unfortunately, there's many things that are beyond the control of our will, beyond the control of our own sort of destiny. Everybody has their own free will, everybody has their own destiny. But if you know that you can raise Krishna conscious children, then that's brilliant. But I know for a fact that many family members just having that responsibility, some parents, devotee parents, they do have several children and they try and raise them in a Krishna conscious way. And then, of course, also to the fact that you've got to remember, you've got to remain Krishna conscious too. Are you going to be happily married together, husband and wife together, happy together, raising your children in a way? Also, raising Krishna conscious kids is not an easy thing as well, because remember, when you bring them up in an environment which is completely absorbed in mature life, social media, illicit sex, drugs, alcohol, intoxication, all sorts of things that we hear on the world. You hear children committing sort of criminal activities. How can we be ensure that we don't actually have a situation where our children don't become Krishna conscious? But if you can, yes, carry on with the progeny. I wish we could be like a certain religion, I won't mention the name, where they have lots of children because they want to flood the whole world with their particular religion and overtake the whole world with their religion, their faith, their dominance, their sort of philosophy. Ours isn't the case. We have to try and raise our own self to a Krishna conscious way. If you can't raise Krishna conscious kids, then it's got to be our karmic reactions on our own journey as well. I hope that answers your question, Surya Devi. Did you?
Thank you, Babaji. That's very kind.
Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you. Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa
Kripa
sindhubhya
sindhubheva cha patitanam
pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Ki jai.
Let's
Thank you,
forgive my
Prabhuji. Very
mistakes.
nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.